Jamie,
Yo, yo.
James, Mannequin, Shield. What
See,
is up, my guy?
yeah, man, good. It's a bit more. We're a bit more in bed this episode, aren't we? We've kind of coming in with bigger smiles because we've done some work and stuff. So
Yeah, we're settled. I feel like
yeah, we're settled in.
we're settled in, and before the show, the formal show starts, I just want to say that I really appreciate you, and I've learned so much from you since we've recorded the show. I've learned so much from you, and yeah, and your presence is of a lot of value in my world. So I want to say that I'm really grateful for you, man.
Oh, thanks, man. That's It's always good to hear that, like that somehow you've been able to just cast something positive towards someone's sort of like pursuit of what they're doing, like life, I guess, as well. But like, like it's yeah, it's good. And likewise, man, the fact that we've shown up, we've had a few stabs at a few things, and we've built projects of music now. So everything we was talking, it's good because everything we was speaking about before was like, I'm glad you've got to see it wasn't just another person talking.
Oh yeah, yeah. I feel like that's the most amazing thing. It's just like being able to kind of walk your talk. And actually, after our conversation, I've I've listened to that episode a few times, and I think that the thing that stuck out to me the most was like the biggest thing, that my biggest takeaway that I would listen to and still listen to in my head is like be easy to work with.
Yeah,
And that's been kind of a, I don't know if a game changer, but really directed me to the right place. And then
yeah,
working together has been also like a huge blessing for me, because I got to see how you operate, and just in general see different people operate, and work quietly within that.
yeah.
How's that kind of been for you, like coming up, like from the beginning to where you are right now, where you're making royalty income, and you're kind of in this place where you can, I mean, you can kind of, I don't want to say rest on your laurels, but just like
Yeah,
you can chill.
yeah, it's a bit of that place,
Mm.
being comfortable it's a double-edged sword, because at the moment and for the last few years, I've found a spot of comfort where I can provide for my family, bought a house, built a studio, still earning on one side, still getting the royalties, still getting jobs. So it's kind of like that curiosity that is there when you first start seeing the traction.
Mm.
The fact seeing it continue and having that test myself to have to keep my head down, keep working, still do a lot of work for free up front. Like I'm still not like Mr. I don't. Not a big believer in the price just went up. I don't like that mentality, to be honest, because I've done jobs for huge companies for less than I've done jobs for companies that I'd never heard of that just paid more. Like I still want to have worked with that company, and I still want that on my CV. I still want to say yes to that person. I still want to deliver, as long as it's not costing sort of my time well spent. Do you know what I mean? Like as long as it's still, and no music is wasted. So I mean, I've kind of stumbled off track there from the original question. What was the actual original
I don't
question?
remember, but bro, you keep going.
Yeah, I mean, the comfort thing, I guess you 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 asked how that had sort of changed things, and it just gives another. It's a different kind of, not anxiety. That's another word that's thrown around a lot now, but like it gives a different buzz that you like. You've got to work with that now. The fact that it's like these synths.
Yeah.
I had to buy 9 synths to realize you don't need any synths. It's like I had to get to that thing because it's been a long journey throughout for me. Like I'm 34 now. I started at 13 in bands, played in bands for years, did a gig, look, so many gigs, and that person that it was like basically pop punk stuff. in whenever it was 2003 or whenever, like that feels like that never happened now, but that was such in that moment when I put myself back there, that was everything that I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
and it was for a long time, and that felt like the thing that was gonna happen because things started to happen. Then things changed. I grew, tastes changed, so all sorts changed, and then it's the next thing, then it's the next thing, then it's the next thing. So I feel like this period where I've got my head down into the sync space, like I'd always got by doing what I needed to do by pursuing it. And I like went, whole reason I went and did the college and university route was just basically to have access to the funding and be able to do it all day, keep my parents happy, but not necessarily, it was never about excelling at that and thinking that was going to be my answer to how to get into it, because I'd had enough experiences before that point, even to know that it's just about showing up, and that's just proven itself more and more, never stops proving itself. Like if I've got a week, there's never really a week where I've got nothing productive to do. Like there's always a task I can pick up. um but if I'm having what I would call maybe like a quieter week where it's kind of like I start thinking, oh, I better do that. Do you know what I mean? Because but it's always about
Endpoint.
showing up regardless.
Yeah.
And not taking your foot off the gas. It's like dieting
Mm.
in a sense. It's like, you know, when they talk about dieting, doing a flash diet, oh, I need to lose X amount of weight in 2 months.
Mm.
That's not usually, and it can be, nothing's an absolute, but
Yeah.
that's not usually permanent weight loss. Do you know what I mean? That's usually shock the body, do this, but if you want, it's a lifestyle change that you
Yeah.
have to live with. And yeah, I think the getting comfortable and being comfortable is a double-edged sword though, because I have to always tell myself like you need to do excel to the next thing, not excel, because again I'm not like this, I need to be the best. I don't have that thought, because the best of what? Like what is the best? Like, and I see so much delusion around that term as well, and I always have, like in the music thing, and like obviously you see it in rap and stuff. It's a part of the culture to have that a lot of that boisterous
Yeah.
sort of like front and things. And but then you see how much, and people just in life have that want to be the best. And I just think that's like a life pursuing something that, like, what even is the best? It's like you just need to be happy. But the further I get into life, the more I realize that you've just got to find the easiest way to get happy.
Mm.
And nurture that, like rather than it
Mm.
always wanting to be new stuff or a yacht. If you're chasing a yacht in this life, that's exhausting. I mean, it's great as well. Like there's something, I'm not saying there's any shame in that, but I don't know. It's kind of, I think the older I get, the more I just realize it's about happiness. And thankfully I've found something like music to do that it's helpful, that it's brings happiness and money, but it's just always a worry that you don't know where the next thing's coming from. So it's nothing really changes. You just settle into it, and you waste the money on the synths. They're great, and I don't want to sell them. They look cool, and they are sick when I actually play with them. But you always strive to that, don't you? When you start, and you're like, I want a studio that looks like that. I've got this stuff and this stuff and that
Yeah.
stuff, and you get it, and it's kind of like underwhelming. It's the whole thing that's a cliche now that was a revelation before, but the journey is the destination. It really is. Like it's
Mm.
about the things you're doing now, not the things you think you want, because the things you want, well, it just always moves away.
Yeah.
So it's about taming that part of your brain and what it is that you want.
Yeah. I feel like, yeah, it's understanding that it's that understanding of a North Star. Like
Yeah.
I feel like it's no shame to say I want to have a yacht at some
No,
point,
no, no, no.
but being able to understand that, okay, like there is a difference between I won't be happy until I have a yacht,
Yeah.
as opposed to kind of like being able to be in the moment until that happens. It's like I was talking to a friend of mine about Spider-Verse today, because
Mm.
it's a movie I want to have my music
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everybody who listens to the show knows that. And and the thing is, I'm putting it out in the world. Like we're
Yeah.
speaking about it right now. Like where I'm speaking about it with all my musicians friends know that I'm geared towards that.
That.
That
Yeah. Yeah.
being
Yeah.
said, if my music is on a UFC promo, I'm not gonna be disappointed in that. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna, shit, it's not a Spider Verse, you know,
It's
like
almost like that Spider-Verse thing's your muse, and
yeah,
by putting it out there,
yeah.
you don't know that the person, the music supervisor, eventually hears you say that is
I have
working on
no
that and just
idea.
loves the story. Like there
No
is,
idea.
I'm that's kind of like leaning into the laws of attraction thing, isn't it? And that's it's there's something to it, but I like battle in my brain with it. Is it the magical, mystical side, or is it the practical, like doing of the thing
Yeah.
and putting it out there? Do you know, not just saying it in your room every night, but maybe saying it in your room every night is a thing. Maybe there is some
I
weird
mean,
thing going on.
I truly believe that vocalizing has its effects. It's like, it's like, you can think of a track, but then singing a track is
Mm.
like, there's a totally different resonance to it, because thinking can be just in your mind, right? But when you put it out there,
It's
it's just
physical.
out there now. So I mean, like,
Yeah,
if I would keep to myself that I want to be in the Spider Verse, I won't have anyone to keep me accountable for it,
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
to tell me, hey, your shit's not even in the direction to be in Spider Verse.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
gotta
yeah,
you
yeah,
gotta take it up a notch,
yeah,
and I haven't heard that yet. So I think something
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
doing
yeah,
is right. So I feel like the thing is, to me, on the journey there, man, like I'm experiencing these amazing little things that happen on the way that I'm grateful for. Like, I mean, like, the album we did is probably the best piece of work I've done to date, like the best quality of work that I've done to date, and it's happened not because I want to be on Spider Verse, but just because I wanted to make something that is from my heart,
yeah,
and that is genuine, and that will also be able to lead to some back end
yeah,
in the future. But I was thinking about it today, like, when a friend of mine I was producing a track for a friend of mine, and he kind of, it felt like he wanted me to be a little bit more invested,
yeah,
and as like in like putting more of myself into it. That's what it felt like to me anyway. But the way that I was thinking about it was like, I made it in order for it to be made.
yeah, yeah,
First
yeah,
of all,
yeah,
like, I put my heart out at the moment, so it could be out in the world. It doesn't have to sell copies. And it
yeah,
sounds super like hippie or non-business, but
mm.
like, the music I do for business is the sync stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and being able to have the privilege to do something from the heart for sync, that's a
yeah.
totally different level. But like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. It's because I have the conversations with myself. Like I still have that thing where I sort of feel like making something, and I, because I've got so used to working with a purpose for my like career side and like
Yeah.
what I can, where it can go, and how I can play it.
Yeah.
I sometimes think, but what it would if I just did like some double A side thing of just something I want to do, like. And I think there's value in doing that anyway now because it's still catalog. It's just catalog you own in a different way. And I think I do think just habitually now, like and just recognizing in myself like the things that I'm good at and the things that I've always liked in music. Like I'm not a tastemaker type person. Like I'm not a if I curated a playlist, it would be like it would be there'd be not really many deep cuts and it'd be like hits. Do you know what I mean? It'd be like because that's what I appreciate the most. I think I've come to accept it's like I'm not the deep cut guy. Like I'm not the gonna give you the don't come to me for like who's like the new guy. I'm like I don't know. I'll ask my friend who knows about the new guy. Do you know what I mean? I'm very
Me
much
too.
like
Me too.
yeah. I just like the big stuff. It's like I'll always I don't know what that is that draws me to that. It's like I downloaded Pokemon Go when that buzz happened because I'm like, this has taken over the world. I need to see that I can do that. Like I can actually experience it. Do you know what I mean? It's like I have to see these things. When Fortnite was going crazy, it was like I just need to see why. Like I had to try and figure it out. There's something about the stuff that like blows like that. I'm just like what's the especially with songs because it's something I can't recreate a game, but a song I can be like what is the magic in this? Do you know what I mean? Like, why is it? And now it's like with sync songs, it's like Black Skinhead, Kanye West. That I just see that synced everywhere and have done for years. It's been in that many briefs that people like want this kind of vibe
Yeah.
that occasionally it comes on the TV and I'm like, is this one of my songs? And I'm like, no, this is Kanye West. I'm just that familiar with it in that context that it's like
That's
throws my
great.
brain. So I almost don't feel like I'm listening to a Kanye West song anymore. It's like I'm listening to this like thing that's been made for me to get inspired for
Yeah.
a sports ad or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's one of those.
What's so I'm interested. Like, first of all, what maybe we'll put a bookmark on it. But something that you've said that really resonated with me was when you spoke about things that are accumulated throughout the years. So, like your abilities to play guitar and
Mm,
play drums and all these kinds of things. And I feel like it meets me as an individual who started from jazz guitar. It meets
mm,
me in the weirdest places. Like
yeah,
suddenly last year somebody was like, "Oh, you play jazz guitar? Let's make some lo-fi together." And then I found
sick,
myself like making lo-fi with a homie and going to a few months ago we went to like a cabin and did a weekend retreat and just
sick,
and made an album in a weekend.
amazing.
And it was
Yeah,
and it's just like I feel like the ability to be in that process and not understand what's coming next. Like I feel like
mm,
I'm doing right now music for whatever I'm doing,
yeah,
and I'm not gonna know what it brings later. And that's the whole game. The whole game is
yeah,
knowing that what I'm doing right now, it may be good for me, it may not be, but
yeah,
it's going to show up at some point
yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
some sort of way.
And that's it. And the longer you're doing it, the more examples you see of it. And I do think like that time spent is a big like if a fairly new producer comes to me like, how do I get into sync? I'm just kind of like, you. I don't want to break their heart because it's not exclusively true. Like you could be doing it for a few years and then go into the sync and thing, and it really just work. But like I feel like you're at an advantage when you have been doing and pursuing music and just doing it for a long time because it feels way more second nature. You've experienced enough times the surprises that you sort of can even find the perspective. Like you have to have a few weird things happen almost to find that perspective of the fact that you're a bit of a antenna for ideas. Like
Mm.
at first you're trying to be this and you're trying to do that and you're trying and you're learning and you're YouTube and you're replicating and I'd still do all that stuff. Don't get me wrong, but it's with now understanding the acceptance of like because a bunch of my sort of personal because it's a personal career path. It's very personal,
Yeah.
so it's like this blend of a career highlight and a personal highlight as one. And so many of those moments have come out of random is probably not the right word because that makes it sound like it's just popped out of anywhere, but with nothing happening. But like just through just unexpected things. Like I didn't make a when I was uploading a video all the time of my beat making process. This was part of my self promotion that I was doing on Instagram. I don't do it so much anymore in the same way I did, but because so much has changed about that space. But like I never made any of that thinking, oh, and then a big producer's going to see that and that's going to
Right.
have a butterfly effect. But then that's how the Timbaland moment happened, which I probably spoke about last time.
Right.
And like, and then a beat that I made to upkeep that moment, because then I was like, oh, best keep making videos. And then to the point where I was often making a beat for the purpose of making a video, not for the purpose of making the music. And like, it's like you get to a certain point where you're just good enough. Like when you're doing something for long enough, you're good enough to do. You might not be good enough to be the super like all naming lights, biggest artist, biggest producer in the world, but you're good enough to be a cog in the wheel. You're good enough to be a good advice, a teacher, sync, whatever it is. You're good enough. You're like you get to a point where you by accident almost know enough, can produce a track enough, especially once you've had a bunch of syncs, like no one can really say anything to you because it's like my quality is obviously broadcast quality, considering I could, you know, I don't know if it works a bit different in the UK to the US. I see differences definitely in the way that the industry, the sync side of things work. But like my PRS statements now, it's just like all the placements. When you read through them, it's just like I can technically say if I was to say, "Oh, I've had placements there," the list would be meant like it'd be crazy now
Yeah.
because it's all over the place. Stuff I didn't ever know happened all around the world, and I don't like people can't say anything at that point about your quality. Not to me. I'm not saying that like in an arrogant way.
Yeah. But I'm the
I just
best.
mean it's just fact of the matter. It's a fact of the matter at that point. When your stuff's placed and you've like it's been on McDonald's adverts, it's been on all this stuff. It's kind of like, well, I'm there now. Now it's
Yeah.
just about not stopping and trying to use my instincts, which got me to the point that I'm at, which is not superstar, but I'm not trying to be a superstar really,
Yeah.
like at all. Like all the things like the yacht that we were talking about, I kind of now operate from a point where if that stuff's going to happen, it's going to happen. They're not my targets
Yeah.
because none of the great things that happened for me were my targets. My
Yeah.
targets is a bunch of stuff that I didn't know how to get to, or like never found the right route, or never made a good enough song for that target before my influence came too late. Maybe like by the time I got good at that, the next trend was in, or do you know what I mean? Like so, and I'm not in a cult. I don't live in a cultural hub of the world. I live in Winterfell, basically, a village outside of Winterfell. Do you know what I
Shout
mean?
out to
Like,
Jon Snow.
yeah, exactly. That's why I grew my hair. I'll be
Thanks
honest.
for
When
coming
there,
back. Thanks for coming back to
yeah,
Winterfell.
no, that is why I grew my hair out because a season ended and it was the season before the last season. I said I'm not cutting my hair. I'm going to be a Stark by the next season. I'm going out as a
Let's
Stark.
go. Let's go. I feel
But
like
then I kept it because I liked it.
yeah,
It
I
was like a
feel like
joke thing.
it's so interesting, like how like the crazy backlash that Game of Thrones got. I didn't know about it until I watched the last season. Fortunately, because people were just so grumpy and upset
Mm,
apparently about how it ended. But I was so drawn to Game of Thrones. It's the best. It's
yeah,
definitely the best show I've watched.
yeah.
Like
I say the
head
same.
down. No,
Yeah.
no other way. There was something that came up as you were speaking. How do you how do you nurture your curiosity? I feel like oh, by the way, and congrats for the you had a few really big placements lately, so congrats for
Mm,
that. And
thank you.
I wanted to ask, like, how do you nurture your curiosity with with sync music, with games, with all the things that you were talking about? You're talking about like Fortnite and the Pokemon Go. Because when I saw what Pokemon Go is doing, I was like, whoa, that's a bit much for me. Damn, like,
Yeah.
I don't. I was one time I was in a park, man, and people were literally running ecstatically in a group of like 30, 40 people, and I was like, what the hell's going on here? And
Yeah.
my homie's like, oh, they're playing Pokemon Go. And then it's like people going, like a lot of people, like, so
Yeah.
apparently there was a Pokemon, like a rare Pokemon in the park. But it was
It's so
crazy,
funny.
man. I can understand how somebody fell off a cliff with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense.
Jeez.
Trying to catch her some breath. Oh my god, yeah. No, I like I don't know what it is. Cause it's I think I get excited. I think I get excited by potential.
Mm,
That always is a thing for me. Like
mm,
my it's like VR, like and AI and a lot of these things that are I see the scary side. I do see the scary side, but I also kind of accept a book that for it, and I'm not a massive book guy. I wish I was better, but I try. But I take it in better when I'm listening because I can multitask, as in
yeah.
like I can clean up and do stuff while I'm doing it, rather than having to make time to sit and just do that. Um, but there was a book again. I could have spoke about it before because I do speak about it a lot. Called "The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck."
Oh
Don't know
yeah,
if you can swear,
Mark
but
Manson.
yeah, yeah. And they did a
Oh, you can
Netflix.
curse as much as you want. I don't
Okay,
know
good.
if you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I thought so. I thought
I
we'd be okay with that.
cuss
But
the
yeah,
shit out of this podcast.
yeah.
I'm
Okay,
sorry
cool.
for this the listeners.
No, it's the new world anyway. Who cares about that? If you've bothered about swearing at this point, like what planet are you on? But
Yeah.
so that book, there was a lot of moments in it for me that were really like it's a book that really spoke to me because it's a simplifier for a lot of the social things that people get themselves into, like about just the bullshit, really.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know the quote exactly, but it's something along the lines of, um, the desire for more positive experience is in itself a negative experience,
Yeah.
but but the acceptance of your own negative experiences are paradoxically a positive experience.
Yeah.
So like learning, because life just has so many inevitabilities and so many things out of your control, and so many like it's, it's never going to sound nice. And when I'm saying you, I mean in the proverbial and myself, but everyone you know is going to die. Shock, but it's going to happen. You don't know what's around the corner. There's just so much of that stuff that, like, the sooner you can, I don't know, tap into to accepting the negatives. And then, so like this AI thing and that, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to go out and fix that. I kind of accept that external world out there is we don't really know what it all is. Do you know what I mean? Like it's information that we're taking in and computing into whatever it is. It's like just a mind boggler. Do you know what I mean? I think down that way, do you know what I mean? I'm quite think about things kind of strange like that. So, but I think it feeds my curiosity. Well, it's a curious way to think in itself, like asking constantly, what is everything? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's quite, so I'm probably that way by nature, but I think it's the big thing for me is the potential. It's like, it amazed me that after the Pokemon Go thing, my brain started going, well, what they could do is if there was a gambling company, an online gambling company, and a fast food chain, really should take that technology. And in the UK, Premier League football, whatever, that's the big thing of the week, and it's on a Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock. That's when all the kickoffs are. If KFC said to this gambling company, let's connect so that if you offer a £5, $5, whatever, free bet to this person, I know it's gambling, it's whatever, people have their minds. This is just what came to my mind. And let them, if they physically go to KFC and physically, the way you've got to physically go to a Pokemon and scan it to catch it, they have to physically come here to get that free bet or they get that reward. Think of all different companies that could merge. Then they're going to go, well, while we watch the football, we'll get a KFC, double down. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't see that. Or if you were a runner or in fitness or whatever, like to set physical checkpoints that could lead to points that grant you rewards that maybe become physical and like,
Mm.
do you know what I mean? Like, I just see the potential in that. And in VR, like, if you were a photographer or if you're building a set, like if you was doing Game of Thrones, like, rather than designing the set and adding the CGI, you can go in there and you can physically go, oh no, that ceiling's not high enough. We need to, do you know what I mean? And like physically, like, so I just think of things like that. And I think in music, it's all I hear now in songs. It's like if something pricks up and I'm like, oh, that sounds like in advert music or for that game or well suited for that thing
Yeah.
or that. I'm just curious to, and I'm curious to what makes things what they are. Like,
Mm.
I think the curiosity side of that just comes naturally and from wanting to be better at what I do all the time and wanting to get there quicker. Like in this world now, I want to understand it so I can make an informed decision rather than I don't want to waste time so much with music anymore. That's become a thing. It's like I like doing something for a reason, and a big part of the payoff is the end of the process now. So I almost don't want to mess around with things. Like that's not really where I'm getting my joy of it from. It's the building of this whole thing. Like even when I was in a band, I was never a passionate guitarist. I was never passionate about singing or any of the parts that I did. I just liked seeing the thing come together and creating something. So I think it's just a creative element that I've got in me. Not like I'm some elite creative, but it's when I play football on the football pitch, I'm more bothered about putting the pass in that no one sees than tapping the goal in and being able to go, I scored a goal. I scored 3 goals this game. Like I'm more interested in the creative part, if
Mm,
that makes sense, of anything. So
mm. Yeah. So I mean, how do you think this comes to fruition? So like because I'm you're saying something, you're talking, you're saying that you kind of have developed this inherent curiosity to things,
yeah,
and in what point do you explore a new thing is what I'm asking. Like in what point do you feel like you can expand and explore, like because I mean, like when you're starting to play piano, you're not gonna go, oh wait, but what, let's expand to that
no,
Chopin, you know, like let's
yeah,
expand to that crazy Mozart fast whatever, you know, like so I feel like there's stages to it, there's levels to it. How do you kind of how do you how do you tippy toe that, because it can be scary again, like
yeah,
as I told you, for me, as someone who's saw Pokemon Go and was like, hell no, you know,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
when
yeah,
I saw Pokemon Go, and with a lot of games that I see that take the world by storm, I'm like, that's, it looks to me like I see the danger in that stuff,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and I want to develop more curiosity.
I just think I do think a lot of it falls down to the fact that it's all scary. When you zoom out for a minute, we're floating around on a rock that's spinning really fast in an empty void of terrifying hell. Like, what is going on? Do you know what I mean? Or not? Like, it's just crazy. Like, the whole existence is crazy. Like,
Yeah,
just everything. That's like my get out of jail card for any strange thoughts. And I think that'll save me through times of loss and through times of struggle, is the zoom out thing. Because
yeah,
it's just remembering where we are, or at least where we've been told we are, and that's another, that's that. Even saying that is that level of curiosity, because and it's like you say, riding the balance of, like, you know what it is and how to function in society and move like that way. And there's parallels with the music thing, like, and you know, like the trends, and you know the chords that work, and you know all the sounds that go with that genre or whatever. Um, but there's always this bit there that there is no rules. Like, there is no right, even in kindness. And, you know, like, maybe there's problems in trying to push for this type of world that'll bring other problems with it, as we're seeing, like how aggressive kindness is becoming. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. I just think there's no, I think it comes from the point of remembering there's no rules. But I feel like I had to almost, I think music's a good tool for that, because you think there is so many rules to make good music when you're learning, and you think you have to do things that way. Like, or at least I went through a phase where I overproduced, um, and that doesn't mean how many tracks I use. That meant I was trying to do stuff to, because I thought that you had to do things like that to be a good producer, or like, oh, you're not meant to boost the mids there on a vocal. Like,
yeah,
that's not how it's done. Like, it's good to know these generalized sort of like processes, because there is
yeah,
general things that work in music
yeah,
and in probably in everything. But, like, there's not a rule, and it's probably just from when I started to break the rules, or like clip the clipper a bit harder than they say you should, or like DS the vocal, battle with myself at why it's sounding like it's ducking too much, but then realizing if you DS heavy there, but then boost the highs afterwards, you get a cleaner version of what it was before without losing the presence. A lot of it just comes from knowing what you can do, doing what you think you should do, and not getting the results you want, to then
right,
bending the rules, getting and being like, oh, that's done. Oh, that sounds great now. Or, like, you know, I think it's just it's a freedom as well. I do think it's helpful to be ahead of yourself when you're trying to get to a point of, going back to what we're saying, comfortable.
yeah,
You're doing a lot more people pleasing almost, but
right,
like trying to do the right thing because I've got to get this sorted now. I need to get my money up now. Do you know what I mean? Whereas when you get ahead with the royalty thing, it's like, by rights, really, like, and it's not a flex. It's just kind of like self-analysis and reality of working in this space. And a lot of the work that I've done to my royalties, as much as I've done quite a lot of bespoke custom license stuff now as well that has formed a pot of sort of like financial thing of its own. Most of my money that I live off now is coming from uh, royalties, like just through the PRO side of things. That
Yeah.
amount is enough to fulfill the life I need to feed. I could overindulge. I could do more. I could travel more. I could
Yeah.
buy nicer clothes more often. I could do all these things, but thankfully, it's happened later in my life, and thankfully, it's happened later in my experience with music. Because I feel like if I'd have got some of the success earlier, I would have thought, oh, that's how it works now. That's it. Like, but now I've like maybe the fear with the kids and the mortgage, maybe that bit of fear from the system is kind of like positively affecting me in the sense of it's like, this is where I was born, this is where I live, and this is for the foreseeable where the plan is to live
Yeah.
because of we decided we want to be around family and that, and you're not going to move all your family. I'm not a billionaire, do you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
doing all right. So that that work that had been put in, like a lot of my statements are paying from music used maybe a year ago. If it's been used overseas, which all the companies I do work for pitch out all around the world as well,
Yeah.
I might have had a placement that was huge a year and a half ago that I don't even know has happened yet, and it might have happened in New Zealand or something. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's just about, for me, it's about always being smart with my money. I keep the credit card that I allow myself to use as if it's mine. I keep like 100 and £150 on it, and I live like that's what I've got. And then when I haven't got it, I just put another one in and just pretend pretend I didn't just do that
Yeah.
because I know I can't. Do you know what I mean? I just try and I'm not tight. I know that there's times where you need to indulge. There's times you need to treat yourself and the family, and we're going on holiday and things like that. I'm not doing it in a grumpy way. Do you know what I mean? It's in a way where, especially now, it's a very strange time. It's not like a great time to invest in property. It's not a great time to invest in all the things that used to be so great to invest in. The world's kind of chaotic right now.
Mm.
So yeah, it's a lot of counting the blessings that you get and trying to make them count for the next thing, and not just getting carried away with yourself and not getting too big for your boots.
Yeah. I think that it's very interesting right now to lay out 5-year plans and stuff like that. Just
Yeah,
like looking at the way that technology is working and things like that. And just back to your point about curiosity, I feel like uh, um where it meets me is like the reason I'm doing this podcast actually is because I feel I'm not curious enough. Like literally, I feel like I can have great conversations, but it's hard for me to change my set of beliefs.
yeah,
So like, why not have some like some really fucking smart people who can talk some sense into my brain, and then I subconsciously go into these technologies.
yeah,
I develop this. I don't think it's curiosity. Like I don't call it curiosity. It's just like a survival mechanism. It's like, oh shit, he's buying it. I have to buy it, kind of thing.
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and then it kind of takes me on to the next level. So I feel like though, like it's different strokes for different folks, kind of thing.
yeah,
And and I think that you also said something really important there, and it's like, I mean, l- live within your constraints and don't complain if you're outside of them, especially if you're in a Western place in the world
yeah,
and you're able to do a lot of things.
yeah,
If you buy $1,000 worth of cigarettes a month, then don't complain that you don't have these $1,000, because
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
like, you're obviously doing something that is not positive for you,
yeah,
but you're spending so much
yeah,
money on it.
yeah,
Yeah, and it meets me in so many places. Everything you're talking about is is sitting really deep. I feel like what you're speaking to.
yeah, I feel like I'm in a bit of a place with that. Like I'm in that sort of just headspace now, and I think you don't unaware. Do you know what I mean? It's not learned. It's not learned. It's awareness, and once you become aware of something, it's very hard to become unaware of it. And I think if you practice it, it's like you say, like where you mentioned about you find it difficult to like shift your perspective or point of view. I can't
Yeah,
remember the wording.
belief. Yeah,
Yeah, belief. That's it. And I and it kind of makes me a strange sort of like there's in certain conversations like my girlfriend will kind of talk like I'm a bit of a tin man because I don't get overly excited, I don't get overly disappointed or sad.
mm,
It's like so you do become this weird middle place that
yeah,
are you then missing out on something human, or are you actually like completing the game? And maybe this is the maybe this time when I die, I don't have to come back. Do you know what I mean? Maybe he's like, right, you got it this time. You got it right. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the theory of the egg, and like I say, it's really deep stuff. But even going as far as I just think of life first now, and like the weird thing that life is. And I just so happen to have committed so much of my time to music that that's my thing I've done, and I obviously resonate with it.
yeah,
And I don't walk around like music's my identity. I would never tag myself with that. But if I zoom out and look at myself, everyone knows me as that guy.
yeah,
Like there's never been a wavering moment with it. Do you know what I mean? There's never been a moment of doubt, or I've never been one of these people that people have gone, what are you doing music? What are you messing around with your music still?
yeah,
Like I've never had those comments. I've never had that. People have seemingly always just kind of accepted that as part of who I am. Um, so I just moved from a real it's really from a life point of view, because I think music, like I was saying before, is something you can get so invested in, and you can buy into the sort of story of it, and the like love for wanting to be this thing, like this spectacle, or the success, or to keep. So I can't pursue that image until I have the success to back it. All these things that people know, so then so much infiltrates it that you forget that like the fundamentals of life stuff. So when it comes to again, I think it comes with having to know how difficult it is to come by money in music. That when I've found myself in that situation, there's always an element of luck, by the way, but you wake up every day and make yourself available for luck. Luck doesn't knock at your door. Like
yeah,
you have to be available for it, like, and being in the studio and working and communicating and putting myself out there and doing as much of that as I can that suits my life. That's the thing. I'm not like, I have to do this today, otherwise
yeah,
I'm failing myself. It's like, no. And maybe I was more like that at some point, and maybe that's what comfort has brought to me, is some perspective in that regard.
yeah,
But it has to, for me now, I think at this age, it has to, the life bit comes first. But fortunately, the things I value are, I'm training myself as much as I can to just value the simple things, just
yeah,
like the fact that rather than getting up and feeling great about myself because I put my big designer shirt on to walk around and go and make my beats and film myself in this designer shirt. And I'm not criticizing designer shirt, like I get it, like, as well, like, and don't get me wrong, like I've got Yeezy slides on. I'm like, I like stuff as well. Like I don't just like only go for bargain stuff, but I'm trying to train myself to not be too sucked in by that, because I've been sucked in by stuff like the synths and stuff. And again, I'm not hating on the synths, but it's all been drawn by stuff and not the fundamental thing, which is just trying to be happy.
yeah,
And yeah, it's a tricky one because it takes time to get there. And I'm not saying I get it right. I'm in a good mood today, and we're talking about this, which makes me reflect, which makes me talk. It's like affirmation as well. Like, it could be tomorrow that I'm sat in a bad mood,
yeah,
and I'm not practicing what I'm preaching. Like,
right,
you don't become unaware of what you actually think, and this is what I actually think.
yeah,
Doesn't mean that I don't fall into the human condition sometimes, and plenty of times. living in the moment is something people tell you to do, but that's another one that I've reframed, because that's when I'm sure that most murderers have been murdering by living in the moment. Like none of, do you know what I mean? It's like it's not how I don't want to get lost in the moment as well. Like that scares me. But then I think as well, like the going back to the creative thing and just look, the things that I like about songs is always the twist on the cliche. Do you know what I mean? So I think that spills into life for me, and I think that I'm always looking for the twist on the cliche. So it kind of, I'll sometimes try to make a point, and it seems like, what do you mean? And I'm just twisting the cliche, and it's like, this is why it's something I love. You know, something like a brain like a Kanye West brain, where he does the almost like freedom of expression thing, where it's like not some of the craziest, you know, he said some wild shit. I'm not necessarily backing that. I don't think that's the way to go. Like, but as a general rule, with his overall brand for all the years of that, just like what do they call it? It's like a flow state, and it's like a
Yeah,
stream of consciousness type thinking. I think if you're a creative mind and you've proven to yourself that you can do it properly, I don't know. I just think that's that. There's so much power in that, and I don't want to lose that part of
yeah,
me. Do you know what I mean? It's
yeah,
something I hold on to dearly, so I try and nurture it, even if it sometimes is a little bit off or whatever. I'd rather be a bit off sometimes when trying to figure stuff out by looking for the twist, because that's where you find a lyric idea,
yeah,
and that's where you find a concept that is going to resonate different. It's like, even like that song "Somebody That You Used to Know," you know, the huge Gautier tune that was huge. That is the type of thing in a song that I'm always just like blown away by, because it's such a simple thing that you could say in conversation and not think much of, but when you're trying to think of a line for a song, you're looking for that line, and it's so simple. A lot of the times people are looking for that line, so they want to write a good line, so they add a fancy word, and it's not really that. It's the twist of that tag. Do you know what I mean? To be somebody that I used to know is just such a. It's not saying somebody that I used to love. It's not saying somebody that I used to be with. It's kind of like the broadness of it, because that could be anyone. It could be a grandparent. It could be a
right,
friend. It could be, I don't know. So just those twists that are cleverly done.
yeah.
Yeah,
This
and I just think I'm conditioned to just look for that in every corner of everything.
this specific song is so genius all over. Like
Oh
every
yeah,
time I hear it, I'm like, man, like it is such. You were talking about time, place, serendipity, all these
yeah,
things. It's just like this song. Just it feels like it brought all of it together. It's
yeah,
not a band that's been putting out songs for life. It's a dude who
yeah,
decided to make a hit song and
yeah.
did it. Like it's just
100%. Well, did it? The thing is, I wonder if he decided to make a hit song. Probably not.
I think the
Maybe.
story with it, the story that I know,
Okay.
and somebody from the listeners maybe can fact check me on that. But the story that I know is that he came from an indie band,
Yeah.
and he was like, I'm going to make one hit single, and I'm going back
Oh,
to the,
sick.
to,
Oh, that's
to the
so good.
shadows,
I love that.
and he
Imagine
did
if you
it.
pulled that off.
And he did it,
Yeah.
and that's why I think, like,
Wow.
and you know what, even if it's not the story, I don't even want to know, because it's
Yeah, like
so
that
fucking
works
baller. I
better.
appreciate
Yeah,
the
that
dude
that
so
feeds
much.
that. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
appreciate the dude so much for it, and I think,
Mm.
like, all that you've said also connects to, um something that you've said before, which was like, everybody's trying to get that Kanye West feel, and I'm kind of taking a left turn here, but a lot of
Yeah,
people are trying to get the Kanye West feel. And the thing is, Kanye West got his song to sound like it is, because he broke rules. So you were talking about the de-essing and all that kind of stuff, and I feel like it's an awesome exercise to take a brief that's from Black Skinhead and do
yeah,
something, but then, like, it's your job to decide, okay, now I am actually willing to let it go,
Yeah.
willing to let all this whatever I learned from this track go,
Yeah.
and take it and either take it up a notch or do something weird with it. That's why the Lizzos of the world are so interesting, because they just like they do something in a way that can were these are the chords for Lizzo's track, have they been played before in a song? Of course.
Yeah.
But have they been done like that, with that something, with that it factor that the
Yeah.
song has? Yeah, and that's the answer. That's the big thing. It's like this
Yeah.
song is her songs are just like so fucking awesome for singing. Same
Yeah.
with the like Dua Lipa and
Yeah.
people like that. I don't know if she knew that her tracks would do whatever they did, but it's just like,
It's yeah, they're the questions that I feel like we're also I know I'm curious of like, there's someone, is someone in the room, because it's no secret now, like the sync conversation is getting louder and louder and louder all the
yeah,
time. More and more creatives, I've seen more and more influencers with well lit rooms, like selling you the route to get your syncs and stuff, which is cool. And I'm
shovels.
yeah, and I'm glad that culture's building there, because, well, it's just I follow that, and that's some of the content that I'm like, when I see they've posted again, I'm like, all right, what are they saying now? Especially because a lot of them are American based, and this is when people are like, you've either got exclusive libraries, non-exclusive libraries. I'm like, non-exclusive libraries, yeah? What's that? Sounds good. Let me speak about that. Like, I've got no experience in non-exclusive libraries.
And it's good, and it's probably better off that way. But yeah, keep going.
And I can imagine that, because I feel like there's the pool of music. They're not committing anything, are they? It's non-exclusive to them, so you're just
Yeah, basically you're dumping in music in there. There's no commitment, and there's
yeah,
I feel like there's some people who are benefiting from that, and there's
yeah,
some sort of some goal to it, but there's also so many credibility issues with things
yeah,
like that. But anyhow, like the thing is, the interesting thing is that also in the sync world, people are coming in, and they don't have what you were talking about. They don't have the actual street cred,
yeah,
and that's when it gets funky, when it becomes a little bit of a wild wild west. Or like my homie
yeah,
was saying the other day, like people come and give you that like details from Google, even people who are really good at what they do. It's like
yeah,
there are things. That being said, I mean, like sometimes, and that connects to another part of our conversation, which where you were speaking to. um you were talking about people who come up to you and they're like, put me on, and like people who are coming like,
yeah,
how do I do this thing? And that's another reason I started the podcast. I'm just like, everyone who asks me, I'm just like, listen to my podcast.
yeah,
It's like, just like, that's, you have all the info from me and from people who know way
yeah,
better from me, and you go do your homework. And the thing is, and that I had throughout my whole career, is I was looking for like a magic bullet. I was looking for like a mentor who would
yeah,
take me up and lift me like a ballerina into
yeah,
glory. But that's not it's not the way it is. It's actually like in I don't think it's like that in any field.
mm,
um and and I feel like people who are going through it right now, who are younger, who are listening, there are actually younger people who are listening to this podcast. Shout outs to you two people. But yeah, there are a few people who are younger and listening to this, and I feel like the most important thing that I've gotten throughout the years from like doing music in general is that I had to do the things in order to understand
yeah,
certain things. And that's like kind of, it's like it's like a kind of a formula. I feel like I
yeah, yeah,
have to
yeah.
do things in order to know things, and it's just like, and
That's
it's
the thing.
and that's exactly what you were speaking about. If you were to get rich at 20, you might have bought that Gucci like shirt
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you
yeah. And
would
I'm not criticizing that as
you
well.
you you may you
Yeah,
may you may have bought 20 cents. You know what I mean?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Like, not only
yeah,
nine, or however many you got.
yeah.